30 long seconds. That's about the time you have sitting at the light to make a decision. Do you give or do you awkwardly look away? It's a tough question with very little information. Entire stories summed up on a broken piece of cardboard. So before you give money to the next panhandler you see, watch as we go behind the cardboard story. Their stories are humbling. Their faces,
there ain't no way to describe how hard it is out here.
Often scarred with despair. Homeless and hungry, jobless and stranded, they are begging for your help.
Just trying to change for anything at all, please.
What's wrong?
I'm trying to get my children to safe places to sleep in a place where I won't get beaten up anymore.
But what would you do if the food you generously gave was tossed to the side? What would you think if the challenge to walk was not always such a challenge? And what would you say if at the end of the day a car is waiting to jump in and drive off? Well, if you're anything like Tom Jager,
I think he's a bad guy. If he's smart enough to do that, he's smart enough to go get a job.
it does not sit well. Jager says he's witnessed the business of begging firsthand. A car dropping off a crew of panhandlers in the morning and then picking them up at the end of their shift.
And I said, so are you really even homeless? And she goes, no, we have a house. I said, so you're basically just running a business where you're asking people for money? And she goes, yeah, basically.
But they can't all be scamming us, can they? What kind of person would say they have cancer if it were not true? Who would have the heart to pull out a couple of pictures of their kids?
Those are my children.
If the money was not going to be used for them? And how could you spend hour after hour, day after day, enduring the humiliation that comes?
You know, people drive by you, throw stuff at you, call you names, you know.
From begging for money.
First week I cried. I mean, I didn't want to go and do this, but it was our last resort and everything. And I mean, it's embarrassing.
That right there is Jamie, and she and her husband Robert have been on the street since he got hit in a head-on collision. And if you're not buying the story on his sign, proof of the accident,
because at the beginning they were so deep that my shin bones were hanging out,
is not for the faint of heart. In the end, medical bills forcing them out of home and their two young daughters.
You had to go there.
Out of their day-to-day lives.
I just miss them. I just miss them a lot.
One single moment that has drastically changed their finances, their health, and their future. A similar moment? Doing the same to 53-year-old Gary. More than a year ago, he could actually stand on his own until a hit-and-run driver
right here, you can see it's broke.
Did some serious damage to his leg.
I wish I wasn't in this situation, but a lot of people don't believe I got a broken leg.
The thing is, Gary's got the police report to prove it. He's got the x-rays to prove it. He's even got the medical bills to prove it. But there's still one question. So can you walk?
I can't.
Not at all.
No.
That will leave you wondering if you're witnessing a miracle, a scam, or maybe something else. I've seen you walk on this before.
You have? Where have you seen me walk at?
People get stories and they find the stories that are going to be the most compelling.
That's Jason Mathis. He's not a panhandler, but as executive director of the Downtown Alliance, believes the once inner-city issue is drastically spread across the entire Wasatch Front. And giving in to these sad, sad stories,
You shouldn't confuse homelessness with panhandling.
creates a false sense of charity.
I think it kind of lets people off the hook a little bit. So if somebody's walking by, they give $3 or $4 to a panhandler and they think, okay, I'm a good person, I've done my duty, I don't have to worry about this again. Well, really what you may have done is enabled somebody with a substance abuse problem.
And while that may be the case for many,
I'm not a drug addict. I
Don't use drugs, son.
panhandlers like Daniel and his girl Ashley are very convincing as to how they use their money. They buy food and rent a room. That's it.
Some days I would just get the money just to have somewhere to sleep, and I wouldn't even eat.
So we watched Daniel for a couple of weeks, and at first his story raised some questions. Begging for money, but also texting on a smartphone, asking for food, but throwing it away. And when we followed this homeless man to a Salt Lake City house, it appeared to be a complete scam. That is until we watched him in uniform, grinding it out, washing and cleaning our car at his new job. Just like that, Daniel was off the corner, staying with family and no longer begging for cash, but instead, he was working for it.
Like seeing me right now, you guys are probably like, damn, he was scamming, or you know, but I'm an honest person, and I think that it's always good to be honest.
All right, so at this point, what's your initial impression of the panhandlers that we followed so far? Would you give or would you look away? Keep that thought, because in 90 seconds, you'll find out if this group of people begging for your money are the people that they say they are. The rest of this story may surprise you. We'll be back. Welcome back. 3 panhandlers, 3 stories tugging at the emotions of all who drive by. Now, first impressions seem to play a major role in whether or not people give, but what we found out may leave you with a lasting impression.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
A lot of people say that they make $100 to $200 a day.
Yay!
We don't come close to that.
It's been about 9 months now since Jamie and Robert lost just about everything good in their lives: his health, their home, and their 2 young girls. On cardboard, their story checks out, but would you still hand them cash if you knew their history? Between the 2, they've got 15 years of felonies and arrests, including theft, burglary, forgery, DUI, and the use or possession of drugs. Ask them about their past. Have you ever been involved in drugs?
Long time ago, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in high school in my early college years, yeah.
And they appear to be pretty honest, but it seems bad habits are often tough to shake. Within weeks of our interview, both were arrested and charged with drug crimes.
It's been a struggle since we've been out here trying not to go back down that road, because it's so easy to try to escape and just not worry about all the crap.
A few miles south, and Gary's gearing up for another day in the chair. We've already seen him walk.
What I'm saying is I can't walk, and if I try to walk, I'm going to end up falling, going out in the street again.
But Gary's problems date back nearly 2 decades before the accident. More than 70 times he has been arrested or cited, including convictions of theft, criminal trespassing, and 3 counts of sexual battery. Mentally, Gary's told the courts that he is bipolar and schizophrenic. In at least 2 cases, the judge has ordered a psychological examination.
That's where I'm at. I'm just out here trying to make money, you know.
Speaking of making money, at last check, former panhandler Daniel was making an honest living at the car wash. He was working, cleaning, scrubbing, vacuuming, and according to police,
officers say this man, 32-year-old Daniel Max Lopez,
he was also robbing.
Was cuffed soon afterward.
In jail, on the news, court records claiming Daniel walked up to a woman in a parking lot with a threat. He's now charged with a first-degree felony. So ask yourself one more time, what will you do? What will you think? What will you say the next time you stop at the light? The stories and faces will likely be very different, but in many ways,
I wouldn't go out there and take people's money just to do it.
They are exactly the same.
I think that's totally wrong. I'm an honest person, and I think that it's always good to be honest.
All right, so as your impression of these panhandlers changed in the last 2 minutes, would you still give them money? If not, where do you give to help the thousands of Utahns who truly are in need, to provide them with the basics to survive and get them back on their feet? All day tomorrow, join KSL Gives Back. In every newscast, we will highlight a different organization, charity, or resource where you can give and be certain that the money will be used to help those who are in need.
It's tough because as kids we're raised and taught to not judge others. And yet, when we come to the stoplight, we're faced with a judgment. When you see a story like this, it makes you go, I don't know.
It's eye-opening.
It is.
For sure. And at least, like you say, those legitimate charities, you know where your money's going to help the people that need it.
And it's not to say there are a small percentage here where their story is legit. You know, you're giving them money and they're using it for the things they say they are. But you talk to anyone who deals with the homeless and people who are in rough situations, they say a majority of the people out there are usually lying about their situation. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is drug addiction. They're staying there to get their drugs.
Well, I'm excited to see tomorrow the different places where we can actually give our money and make a big difference.
Yep, because people want to give. We have so many giving people here in this state. You know, whenever anything comes up, people want to give. And so let's give it the right way, and that's what we're going to help people out with tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
Good, long time in coming work.
Yeah,
you know, we sit right by you, so you've been doing a lot of work.
Thank you.
Fantastic.